I think there's a powerful principle in advertising is that these smaller brands have been able to come in and carve out even $1 million sub-markets. You have this idea that Amazon is too saturated, that there's already so many existing sellers that are established, it can seem way too daunting to get involved. What would you say are like the big things that would jump out to a customer if they were in a niche market?
It's really thinking about.
Today, we will be talking about the cosmetic and CPG space in Amazon in 2025 and beyond, and how we think it presents one of the biggest opportunities for growth for both new and existing sellers on Amazon. My name's Connor Byers, and I've been selling on Amazon for 5 years, and I help people sell on Amazon and start selling on Amazon via YouTube.
And my name's Emma Schirmer-Tamier, and I'm from Marketing by Emma. We started in 2016, and we really work with brands to help them figure out how to strategically differentiate their products and position themselves in highly competitive categories, which is pretty much every category on Amazon these days.
Totally. And I think that kind of leads us into our topic point here, which is that one of the big critiques that I feel like a lot of people have about Amazon nowadays, if you're a new seller looking in, or if you haven't even started, is you have this idea that Amazon is too saturated, that there's already so many existing sellers that are established. They have the reviews that, especially when we look at a lot of these big categories, it can seem way too daunting to get involved. And I think this presents an opportunity, especially within cosmetic and CPG, to niche down and to find these smaller markets where people can infiltrate.
Yeah, I think that I see it from both sides. So it can intimidate a lot of people from even wanting to start to begin with. But also a lot of times what happens is people launch their products because they have this dream and this idea, and they realize, wow, I am trying to paddle my boat upstream. This is really hard. And what do I do? How do I figure out a way? I still really believe in this. I'm not willing to throw in the towel, but I need to figure out some way that I can start to gain some traction, or I'm going to really be in a bad place.
100%. Yeah, gaining traction. I feel like Amazon is such a momentum and traction game. And especially as a new seller, that can be one of the hardest things, I think, to figure out. And I think by latching on to a niche audience, you can really do that. And what I like to think about is, like, me for the longest time, like, you were so limited in what you could purchase at like your local store, like in a pre-Amazon, pre-internet date. And Amazon has allowed consumers to get connected with products that completely connect with them. For instance, you can connect with a product for your health that meets your exact diet or your dietary constraints. And you have so many products that are targeted, whether it's the keto diet, the carnivore diet, whatever it is. And beauty products for whatever your specific beauty need is, you can find that. And you can get even more niche down than that. And I think Amazon has really created this interesting like niche economy where you can find exactly what you want. And I think it provides a great opportunity for sellers to really target down and to find that base support within a great niche like that.
Absolutely. And just to make sure that we're all on the same page when we're talking about niche here is if we're thinking a big category, so something like facial oil, that's a massive category where you're going to be going up against potentially thousands of other sellers. And so by figuring out some more highly specific areas to really build your brand around, you can actually really tap into places that a lot of big brands are unwilling to go. And so you can come in here and find those little pockets that they're just leaving for the taking.
Totally. Yeah. And that was a really good explanation. I think that really helps capture it. Like if you're a big brand and you're trying to capture it, you're going about this about trying to capture a broad market. But if you are a single seller, if you're a mom and pop shop, a small operation, you can totally carve out a still substantial business within one of these smaller markets. Like for instance, you gave a great example there, but say the creatine market is one where I see this really played out across the past couple years. Is creatine, of course, is a very generic product, but I've seen it marketed down to so many subset markets like creatine for women, creatine for teens, how via branding and slight adjustments to the product that these smaller brands have been able to come in and carve out even $1 million sub markets and target it. And for the customer side, they feel like they're getting a product that completely matches exactly what they want. And from a brand side, they're able to build such a core group of support around this by reaching customers that weren't previously targeted to before. In a world where people are expecting more and more products to exactly match them where they're at.
Yeah. Like it almost sounds like it could be too easy, right?
Sure.
But really, if you're thinking about, and this is always such an important thing to do, is to put yourself into the headspace of a customer.
Definitely. And you bring up a very key point there, is that Amazon's core is a search engine. So if you can tap into those more specific terms that people are searching for and meet them there with that product, you're going to be able to connect with that avatar, and you're going to be able to give them a product that delights them, like you said. And I know, although we talk about previously the creatine example where these sub markets have emerged and brands have delivered upon, I think there's still so many thousands of other markets. And I think that we continue to be able to go smaller as customers' expectations get smaller and more niche down. As someone wants something that's more unique to them, it presents even bigger opportunities. So even though there's so many brands that are already starting to capitalize on the niche marketplace, I think that there's just so much opportunity that's going to continue to emerge, where so many sellers that are already selling that are looking to expand and find new regions, or if you haven't started selling yet, I think that there's still so many different avenues and more specific niches that you can find and reach.
Yeah, well, what's been going on in my head as you've been mentioning this is that these are a great place to start. But the really important thing that you need to be thinking about when you're doing all of this is it's not just finding some of those golden keywords and calling it a day, because when you're going to be running Amazon ads for those keywords, you need to make sure that everything is reinforcing this idea. Because if somebody is searching for creatine for the carnivore diet and they come across your product page and your ad and it's light pink and it's bubbly font, they're gonna be like, I don't think that this is for the carnivore diet.
Yeah, and I'd definitely love to hear your insight coming from a design background on that. First step, obviously the product itself. For instance, with the carnivore diet, we have to be concerned about no added sugars. We have to be concerned about preservatives. We got to be concerned about making a product that delivers. But Amazon is very unique in the sense that when people are searching for, they're identifying your product a lot of times based on that listing image, which is so important to resonate with the customer. So you having that background, what would you say are like the big things that would jump out to a customer if they were in a niche market on a product like that?
It's really thinking about who is making that search. So a lot of times we look at keywords and we treat them as this isolated string of words, this phrase that's not connected to a person. But those phrases always begin with a problem that someone is experiencing, and that is their attempt to really go and search for a solution to that problem. And so you really need to understand what is driving a person to want to go on Amazon and search for a product like that to begin with.
Absolutely.
And who is that person? So who is actually making the purchase? What are they thinking about? Having a really not just clear idea of their motivation, but what's going on in other parts of their lives. Do they have other interests that might overlap with if they're doing the carnivore diet, how did they learn about the carnivore diet? What other corresponding interests might they have? Are they interested in biohacking, or are they interested in, there's a whole handful of different avenues that you could go down, and all of that will start to give you some insights into how to visually represent that, because you want to give customers visual and textual clues to reinforce the idea that they are in the right place. So if I'm looking for something for, creatine for carnivore diet, I probably want to see pictures of plates of meat.
Yeah.
I want to see somebody that's looking shredded.
Definitely.
I want to have those call outs for no sugar, no added this, that, and the other, any of the big kind of no ingredients that somebody would already be staying away from. Even if it seems obvious, if you're saying, well, this is for the carnivore diet, having those reinforcements to say you're in the right place is really, really, really important.
Yeah, those reinforcements I think are huge. And I know you mentioned color. Color is huge. Being able to capitalize on what the avatar, when you have that customer avatar, what is the color that represents them? For instance, women, that's oftentimes, if you're targeting women, you make the product pink. I've seen tons of creatine products, creatine for women, that have done that pink color. For carnivore, for us, oftentimes that's big, bold colors like red and black that we put out there to really capture that image. But also with the carnivore diet, like you said, like what's the other things in their life? Oftentimes that's taking a natural angle as well. People, it's not just aggressive, but it's also natural. How do we convey that? What are those things? And another one is just really making what your audience is clear on the product. So putting on our products in big text like carnivore or whatever it is, and making those words that make your product stand out big, and a big aspect of the packaging can be a great way to capitalize on it if you don't already have great brand recognition. And I think this is one of the great powers of where we are today with tools available to us, with access to freelancers, is the ability of, even if you aren't a big brand, if you're just a one-person operation, is you can create great design for your product. And I think that can be one of the most important things when you're developing a product like this, especially in a niche economy.
I think one of the things that people always get a little bit hesitant about with making a decision like this is, but aren't I maybe closing myself off to a lot of opportunities? Like, why would I only want to sell to, maybe there are 100,000 searches a month for creatine powder, and with creatine for carnivore diet, there's obviously going to be less.
Yeah.
So what would be your
My response,
yeah.
yeah, my response to that is like, I think there's a powerful principle in advertising is by saying no to some people, you make the people that you're saying yes to an even bigger yes. When it feels like the product is made for someone, and by rejecting what would be other people, for instance, a carnivore product is obviously rejecting other diets, specifically, especially like vegans, vegetarians, you're leaving these people out who are probably never going to try your product. But because you're rejecting people, you make it such a stronger buy for the people that capitalize on your audience. And specifically, if you are a small brand, if you don't have goals of being a massive company and competing on that level, then oftentimes that's a better angle to capitalize on. Because if you aren't going to be able to compete with some of these bigger brands, then you're carving out a huge yes for you there, which, although we're talking about carving in a small audience, we're still talking about what could be a multi-million-dollar business, even if it's in a sub niche like we're talking about. But I think by saying no to some people, you make it a stronger yes for the people that it really connects with.
So then if you wanted to get a bigger piece of the pie, you said, okay, I figured out the creatine for carnivore diet, but I'm hungry for more creatine. Would you suggest that they go and start another niche brand?
Yeah, it's totally possible because for a lot of this, a lot of it's branding. If you have the sourcing already set up, it's just a matter of making some small tweaks to the product, changing the branding. Of course, the branding is the big central piece here. Or even, like you said, if you've already capitalized like the carnivore audience or the vegan audience, you can line expand from there. What are other products that people in that audience and that avatar already want? If you've already made the avatar, you know what connects with them, then line expansion, that's a great other way of doing it. But both of those, I think, present great opportunities of continuing to niche down and creating separate products, separate lines, and expanding from there, really. So in summary, I think in terms of CPG, the cosmetic space, I mean, I think we kind of share that view that it's such a big opportunity, specifically within that niche economy for sellers on Amazon. Would you agree on that?
Yeah, I think that when you are considering starting a brand, or whether you're maybe even floundering a little bit and just not achieving the growth that you expected, that you need to do some evaluating. And it's so incredibly difficult to be able to go up against the giants that have thousands or maybe even tens of thousands of reviews, that have an army of influencers that are already repping their products. And I mean, if you want to still create something that is substantial, trying to go up in that arena is going to be really hard. And you don't have to put those dreams and wishes aside, but this can be a way of being able to build yourself up to get there. And
Absolutely.
And so it's a way that's more cost effective and more reasonable for businesses.
Exactly. Yeah. More reasonable, easy to infiltrate the market, or at least easier than going up against some of these giants. You can create dedicated, loyal fans that support you. And I think the biggest takeaway of all is, even though we're talking about getting smaller here, is that it can still present such a big opportunity. Is that it's not taking away. You can still build a multi-million-dollar brand within a niche and subcategory like this, even within one product, but also via line expansion and continuing that out. And I really think that it's only going to grow. Customers are only going to want products that are more and more niche down around their wants and interests. And that as this happens, it's only going to present more and more opportunities for sellers to capitalize on that, to launch products, and to keep the niche economy growing, which Amazon has been such a great facilitator of in making happen.
Yeah, and even more so now with social media and the way that things are becoming more fragmented. It's one of the things that's really exciting for brands and customers to be able to have that exact right perfect fit. And so that's where it's not even that you're choosing to go small, but it's that you're choosing to build something really profound and a relationship that is going to have a real lasting repeat purchase potential that could change your life.
Absolutely. I think that lasting potential is so huge. And I appreciate you having this conversation with me
Thank you.
on the space of the future.
Yeah. Good luck, everyone.
Good luck.